much do you know? How much do any of us know about the current situation within Belarus?
We actually know everything what's going on in Belarus, because we, first of all, we are communicating with people on the ground, and of course we have to monitor all the propaganda news, and we ourselves create agenda, for Belarusians. But what's going on? Lukashenko in 2020 usurped power in Belarus, and now he is controlling Belarusian state only through means of repressions and with support of Putin, political support and economic support. Since 2020, the level of repressions in our country is only increasing. Every day in Belarus, about 20-25 people are being detained. Since 2020, 500,000 of Belarusians left Belarus because of terror, tyranny, and threats to Belarusian people. Lukashenko now is strengthening his own military apparatus around him, just to threaten people even more. In Belarusian prisons, up to 5,000 people now are kept on political motivated cases. People are kept in incommunicado mode. A lot of them, we don't know the fate of many people who are kept in full isolation. For example, I don't know anything about my husband for 5 months already. Nothing at all. People are ill-treated. They are lack of any medical aid. They are put in punishment cells, in solitary cells. So Lukashenko creates, his cronies create huge pressure inside the prisons. Among the population, people now went to underground, mostly because it's impossible now to do something visible, because it's a straight road to prison. People who are opposing the regime or supporting Ukrainians in this war, they are considered to be enemies of this regime. They are put in prisons, they are detained, they are being tortured. For example, a person who donated 20 euros to Ukrainian army got 6 years in prison. Or people who, I don't know, put Belarusian flag somewhere, also years in prison. All the civil society in Belarus has been ruined. People in Belarus live like in Stalin times at the moment. But despite of this, people working, I'm talking now about people who are in Belarus, working on in underground. They are creating small structures inside Belarus, communicating between themselves. And we have so-called Peramoga plan or victory plan, where people can enter. It's like national movement. Just when the window of opportunity will appear in Belarus, all those people will be ready again to go to the streets, to oppose to Lukashenko regime. Now I'm asking Belarusian people to stay safe. First of all, don't be too vocal, because it's dangerous. I really don't want people to be detained or to be, I don't know, disappointed. I ask people to keep this internal fire inside themselves, for the moment when it will be necessary. And when some months ago, gossips about Lukashenko's poor health appeared, or when Prigozhin went with march on Moscow, immediately we started to get hundreds of messages. Tell us what we have to do. Is this the moment we have to get out here? So people are, preparing, for something. Those people who fled Belarus, they can be more active because they are in safety in European countries. So in exile, people now are building civil society that's impossible to build inside Belarus. People are working on accountability. People are working on strengthening of national identity, because now it's also been ruined in Belarus. People are working on creating pressure on Lukashenko and strengthening actually our activists here. So yes, we have to work mostly from exile, but our task is not to live in this exile bubble. but to keep in contact constantly with Belarusian people. For me personally, I'm communicating with people through video messaging, through communication in different in social networks, also through personal communication with Belarusians. I have particular time when anybody from Belarus can call me through Zoom, and communicate directly. And also all those non-governmental organizations who also have been ruined in Belarus and have to work from exile also have their own type of communication with people who are inside Belarus. So our task is not to lose this connection, despite Lukashenko is trying to do. When I say Lukashenko, I mean all his system.
Yes.
Tries to ruin this relationship, to isolate people of Belarus. Actually, Belarus now is a huge prison, not only for those who are in real prisons, but also for those who are living under constant stress.
How much support can we say that he actually has within Belarus?
In 2020, when we still had possibility to make how it's called, social surveys, social surveys, support of Lukashenko was about 17-20%. Now this number is not increasing, it's decreasing, because Lukashenko committed a lot of crimes, and especially after he became participant of Russian invasion to Ukraine, the number of supporters is decreasing. Of course, Lukashenko is trying to use propaganda or media, to influence people, but he hasn't been able for these 3 years to change people's set of mind of people. And we are, as democratic movement, we are showing Belarusian people another perspective, because for 30 years Lukashenko's system told nobody is waiting for you in Europe, only Russia is our friend, and but our task is to show that we can develop in free country. Our country should be independent, and we ourselves have right to choose our future. It's not to one person or his ally in Kremlin to decide our future. I know that even people of the system, they also don't support actions of Lukashenko in participating in the war, in migration crisis, in this closer relationship with Russia. They also see how Russia is actually step by step occupying our country. There is a process of Russification, economic influence of Russia in our country is increasing. Lukashenko system is ruining entrepreneurs in our country and change them with Russian entrepreneurs. So all these issues, are so visible among Belarusian people. They see how they don't have possibility to travel because of Lukashenko's actions, because of hijacking of airplane. Planes are not flying above Belarus. And what's important, that Belarusian people don't blame Europe or, I don't know, the USA, because they in this position. They know who is guilty on this, and people want it's not revenge. People want all those who guilty being brought to account, for their actions.
Always been quite careful in that you've never said that you want Belarus to become part of the EU at the outset. I mean, is that still the case? I mean, especially now with the Russian invasion. I don't think Russia is seen as benevolent.
In 2020, there was no geopolitical choice among Belarusian people. We only wanted to change political situation in Belarus, to get rid of dictator and build a new country. And it was up to Belarusian people to decide where we want to move. But now we see that Belarusian people realize that Russia means wars, Russia means poverty, Russia means these imperialistic ambitions, and Europe means safety. Belarusian people, when they escape in repressions, they escape to Europe. So step by step, the choice for Belarusian people is evident. And now it's a stable understanding among Belarusian people that Belarus should be a member of the European Union. I know that it takes time and efforts, but it's where we are going. Only being part of European family of countries, you're already part of European family of countries historically. But it will be a guarantee for Belarus independence and prosperity. We have to get Belarus out of Russian claws. Belarusians must hear that, as I said, there is alternative to Ruski Mir. We need positive agenda. We should not allow a new Iron Curtain in Europe. So recently it was conference of democratic forces of Belarus. It was in Warsaw, and people, representatives of different spheres of life, NGOs, politicians, political parties that also have been ruined in Belarus, they agreed that we have to work on European future for our country, and it is our task for this year. Not to just, we realize that it's a difficult process. We will not become candidates immediately, but we already have to think and work in this direction.
To look to that horizon.
Absolutely, to work with European institutions like European Council, Council of Europe, or OSCE, and all the structures, just to show that we are responsible. We can create institutions, even in exile, because everybody understands, the political situation in Belarus. But just for this process become faster and smoother in the future.
And are you, when you meet a lot of leaders, I see you've just come back from the Bled summit, and when you say this to other leaders, do you hear positive response?
I see that our European partners and actual democratic partners realize that Belarusian regime and Belarusian people, two different things, and they have to hear voice of real Belarusian people. They distinguish Belarus from Russia. And when we urge our partners to, when you talk about punishment, for example, you have to say, we have to punish Belarusian regime, but to help Belarusian people, with people of democratic Belarus. We are institutionalizing our relationship with the governments and parliaments. Already in 30 countries, there are groups for democratic Belarus. It means that people in parliaments will keep Belarusian question on agenda. For example, now we are also working on the project passports of New Belarus, because people who fled our country, they don't have possibility to exchange the expired passports. New people, Belarusians, are born outside of the country, but they want to know that they belong to Belarus. And that's why this alternative passport of New Belarus is one of our priorities. It's very ambitious project. It has never been done in the world, but we have to do this because we have no other choice. So I see that Belarus is not high on the agenda now because of the war in Ukraine, but we also explained that the fate of Belarus and Ukraine are interconnected. You can't leave Belarus for one day later because it might be too late already. That without democratic Belarus, there will be no free and safe Europe. It's also should be a priority. Free Belarus should be priority of our European allies.
Lukashenko, I get the impression he's trying to keep Belarus at one step removed from the conflict, while supporting it. So, do you think that there is a misunderstanding in Europe about to what extent his regime is supporting the actual invasion and the danger it presents?
I think that Lukashenko is trying to balance at the moment. That he also say that our country is not participating in the war, No, Lukashenko, you are already participating in the war. You provided Russian army our territory. The first missiles have been launched from our territory, and it is you and Ukrainians who are guilty, and you have to bring to accountability for this. Belarusian people, since the beginning of the war, were on the side of Ukraine. Our military volunteers are fighting in Ukraine. Our partisan movement, who disrupted railways, who disrupted surveillance airplane in Belarus, those people who are in exile also, they have been trying and now continue to try, continue to support Ukrainian people, you know, because we know what it means to grab one bag and leave your country, like leaving everything behind. And we also realize that the outcome of the war in Ukraine, I mean victory of Ukraine, will influence the situation in Belarus. So it's also our obligation to help Ukraine. So our partners, our democratic partners, understand this difference, you know, between people and regime, and but of course, there are so many obstacles. You know, since the beginning of the war, we are trying to persuade international courts to launch special mechanism of investigation on Lukashenko's crimes against humanity, against our European neighbors, against participation in aggression against Ukraine. But I still see some hesitation. You know, everything.
Why do you think that is?
It's a lack of political will, I suppose. We are knocking many doors. And sometimes it's difficult because, again, we can't apply any case because there is no state behind us, because state is usurped. You know, the situation in Belarus is very unconventional, and we are asking our partners to use non-conventional tools, you know, to help Belarusians in this fight. We will not be able to win alone. Help us to do this, because again, democratic Belarus is not only you know, in the interest of Belarusian people. Yes, of course, but it's also in your interest as well. So help us to do our job. Help Belarusian civil society, our media to counter propaganda. IT companies like Google, I don't know,
the Twitter, X, as it's now known,
block all this lie that is going from regime, but help real narratives, truth to spread, you know, among our partners. And we actually we are lack of people's capacity, we are lack of financial capacity. So help us with your expertise, help us with assistance, not just to survive, you know, the situation, but to win this fight.
If there was, I mean, and we're all hoping that there will be a Ukrainian victory. I mean, there doesn't seem to be an alternative, really. But do you think that would almost immediately mean a complete change in Belarus? Would it be like a domino effect?
I think that, yeah. You know, Lukashenko now is surviving mostly thanks to political and economical support of Putin, mostly political. And when Putin fails, it will be automatical failure of position of Lukashenko. Believe me, people who are in the system will immediately change their minds. You know, they will then say, "Oh, we always were on your side, democratic forces, but we couldn't do anything in the system." And you know, it will not, of course, happen automatically. It's our day after day work to you know, to keep this regime in under pressure through sanctions, through political pressure. And you know, people who are around Lukashenko, they also looks on Kremlin. Was the situation there? Because while Lukashenko doesn't have this support, it means that he doesn't have support wherever. Now Lukashenko can't balance between East and Russia, or West and Russia, as he had been doing for many years before. And at that moment, when the Kremlin collapses, it will be also important to see strong position of our democratic partners, that they will not try to save Lukashenko. We have to save Belarus from Lukashenko, but not to save him. But we have already, you know, have good relationship and stable position in democratic countries. So I think there will be no problem. But what I want to underline, that when there will be a process of negotiation after, you know, in the moment of the end of the war, you know, Belarus' voice has to be heard there as well. Belarus, the fate of Belarus shouldn't be solved without participation of Belarusian people, not pro-regime people who think not about country, but about the personalities, but those who are real took responsibility for democratic future of Belarus.
Did the sanctions make a difference? Have they made a difference? Do you think that they're working to any real extent? And you said that you need support to building up those competencies for, you know, future governments. And you said there's some support there, but really it's inadequate. I mean, could those resources be used more effectively?
Okay, as for sanctions, don't work effectively enough because so many loopholes are left in the sanctions. You know that only last year import from Europe to Belarus almost doubled despite of sanctions, and export is also continuing from Russia, from China. So Russia uses Belarus to circumvent sanctions. Belarus uses Russia and other countries, you know, to circumvent sanctions. Just an example, export of birch, you know, the wood birch.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Like tree birch.
Yeah, yes, I know.
So when wood processor now it's under sanctions in European Union, but Belarusian regime put sticker of, for example, Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan on these wood products, where from countries where birch doesn't grow at all. So they change sticker, and it's like it's sanction circumvention. So what we are asking our partners, like to create mechanism of sanction enforcement, like it's done in the USA, for example. The USA also have mechanism of secondary sanctions when every organization that is participating in sanctions and conventions also will be under sanctions, and it's really restrict many companies, you know, from helping Belarusian regime. There is no such procedure in Europe, so Lukashenko is very experienced in sanctions and conventions because he was under sanctions many times, but still there is a lot to do in this direction, just to close borders for trade, not for people. For people, you know, borders have to be open. To block Belarusian state banks, you know, there is still some branches in the Belarusian economic that can be under sanctions. Of course, after I realized that after changes there will be a lot of difficulties in Belarus, economic difficulties, but we already have a guaranteed comprehensive plan for Belarus by European Union. It's 3 billion euro. Of course, it's not like huge number, but it might be spent for effective reforms in our country. And also we are asking our partners to include Belarus in this big so-called Marshall Plan for Ukraine. You know, that Belarus also should you know, should be rebuilt. You know, but I think that Belarus has wonderful geographical position. We have some natural resources. We have outstanding, very disciplined and hardworking people. You know, if to give them possibility to work, you know, to create and develop their businesses. We had wonderful IT sphere that was ruined by this regime. If to give opportunities to people to work, they will work. And if the you know, Western investors will realize that Belarus is independent, free country where they can also have their businesses, they will come to our country. Logistic logistic organizations.
Yes, logistics, yes.
Yeah, so I think that we'll manage to restore our economic very fast. Of course, there will be difficulties because our country dependent a lot on different Russian resources. But Europe also was dependent for many years on Russian resources, but they managed, to survive, and we will be able as well. But of course, we'll need assistance in the future as well. But it will be done for actually for the profit of the whole region, not only like specifically for Belarus.
What is the first thing that you would like to see the EU do now, at this moment?
Overall, strategy of European Union towards Belarus is should based on 5 pillars. It's assistance, increasing assistance for democratic forces and civil society, increasing pressure on Lukashenko's regime, improve sanctions, close loopholes, sanction enforcements, no derogations, all that stuff. Then accountability, bring Lukashenko to justice and deprive him of immunity. Employ available mechanisms of accountability, ICC, ICJ, Office of UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, special rapporteurs, whatever that can make this regime accountable. Then recognition, ensuring the presence of democratic Belarus on the international fora and events like G7, G20, OSCE, block the regime from giving them voice again on different fora. So don't recognize Lukashenko regime, recognize democratic forces and commitment. We told about this, developed and detailed the EU comprehensive plan for democratic Belarus, include Belarus for for potential post-war Marshall Plan on Ukraine and Eastern Europe. Also define the role of democratic Belarus in the new security architecture of Europe. Also prepare the professionals for new Belarus through fellowship, scholarship. So there are many directions, but there is no one step that we are asking for, because everything is working only in complex.
Yes. If I could take you back, I just have a minute left, but I took you back to the 9th of August 2020, when we saw that eruption in the streets, 100,000 people on the streets of Minsk, and then throughout cities across Belarus. I appreciate that you're looking forward and you don't have much time to sit and look back, but do you ever think about that moment and think what a transformative moment it was?
August and later events changed the Belarusian set mind fully, because I'm an ordinary representative of ordinary Belarusian, because I have never participated in any political process, and it's shame of Belarusian people that they gave all these political decisions to one person. They were not interested, but now people are more interested in politics. In 2020, people realized that our country doesn't belong to one person. It belongs to millions of Belarusians, and it's our task to decide our future. They saw tortures. They saw how inhuman this regime is, and they will not be able to forget and forgive this. It's not about revenge. It's about we are studying how to be democratic society already now. We are trying to build democratic institutions. We try to explain to Belarusian people through media that everybody of you is responsible for your country. So we have do everything possible now through educational processes not to allow future person who will be in power to become dictator, because society will not allow this.